Being Orthodox, the challenges and possibilities for LGBT plus inclusion. Welcome to the Priceless Podcast. Welcome everyone to the Priceless Podcast. This podcast is made in partnership with the European Forum of LGBT Christian Groups. This podcast is also supported by the Foundation HMS and is part of a series, Let Us Be Heard. So maybe this is also an idea for you if you want to apply or if you want to donate to this foundation. For more information, click the link of the foundation in the podcast description. One way you can support this podcast is by subscribing, liking, and of course sharing with others. You can also leave your comment in the comment section below, or you can contact us in any other way and give us some feedback. You can also support us financially if you want, and all the necessary information is in the podcast description. Today we have a new guest, and we are traveling a little bit towards the northeast from where I am, and she is from Belarus, and her name is Natallia Vasillevich. I hope I said it correctly. She gives me the thumbs up. So thank you, Natalia. Thank you for taking part in this. I'm glad that someone from Belarus is joining me. And you have also a very interesting story. But instead of me saying things about you, let us first hear how are you, and welcome to the Priceless Podcast.
Hello, everyone. I'm also happy to be in this podcast. It took me a long time to join, and I'm happy that finally I can be with you and share my story and my reflection on different issues. As Mikhail said, I'm Natallia Vasillevich from Belarus, and now I live in Germany, and I'm involved in the Orthodox Church and write my dissertation on the Orthodox social doctrine, so the mission of the church in the world, and inevitably this is very much connected also to the issues of gender and sexual orientation and exclusiveness and inclusiveness of the church, and how the church understands itself in modernity, in the modern world, and so on.
So before we go into Orthodoxy, we already found out that your faith background is Orthodox. What is your sexual identity and gender identity?
For me, it's a little bit complicated because I had different experiences in my life, and I was born as a girl, but my socialization was not like a feminine socialization, so I was very much considered myself more as a male, but now I understand that it's because of the stereotypes, so I was just myself, and but many people thought it's not okay for a girl to be as I am, but it was my way to be a girl, and I think that playing football and doing things which are normally were in my society considered to be male, boy stuff, it was just my girl stuff. And but in that time I a little bit struggled with this, but then also I was in school in a completely female class with one guy. And all the girls called me Vasya. It's a male name coming from my family name. And so it was my nickname. And also because I was very from solidarity with a guy who was the only one among girls, and who suffered to be alone in this class, especially in this puberty time. So I'm more allied with him, and I was like his body as a male body. Anyway, my socialization was not very female, and I didn't like, for example, to wear skirts because just for practical reasons, especially in the winter. I think so that for him it was not important which is my gender identity. He was just friend with me, so that's how I was overcoming my gender identity. But everyone else were calling me Vasya as this male name. So I would say I'm gender queer in a certain sense, but I like to be female, but to be female in my own way. So the way I live my life and I live my gender and my sex, maybe it's not conventional female, but I feel that I'm female also because for example, I cannot be priest in the Orthodox Church. So and sometimes I must say that I'm so being Orthodox and being female, I also have more chances because, for some scholarships and for some interesting things, because we always need a gender balance or something like that. And so many ways are open for me because female now are more supported by encouraged by ecumenical organizations, for example. So that has its own privileges but also its own limits. I prefer to have rights, equal rights, without limits and without privileges, because privileges is already for me a sign of disbalance of the rights. We need to reconsider many things in our societies because many people are alienated from the basic rights of being themselves and living their life as they wish, and are put in some box which they don't want to be inside. And about my sexual orientation, so I would say rather that it's also not very important issue for me. So I don't think of this category of sexual orientation when I think about my romantic relationships. But I didn't have many in my story of my life. But all people who were I was in love with, let's say, with this old-fashioned word being in love. No one says anymore love and being in love. It's considered very often not modern anymore. So all people I were in love with were considering themselves as male. And I think, they were biologically male personalities, and they had the male gender identity.
So you were talking about being gender queer. Do you consider yourself more part of the LGBT community, or do you see yourself more as an ally?
That's also a difficult question because you see, even if we speak about this division, and it's really like, can you be feminist if you are male? It's also there is a big discussion that we need to have differences between feminist and pro-feminist, and how to say, I find it very difficult. Of course, there are some things like also with racial hatred and racial discrimination, which also, can you be belonging to can you be black person and say jokes about black people, or should you be Jewish person to say jokes about Jewish people? So how all these identity things, how they are defined? For example, a person born from a Jewish father in Israel is not considered to be Jew because it comes from maternal line. But tell it to the Jewish people in Eastern Europe who are discriminated because they have Jewish father and they have family name which is Jewish. all these things, I think that it's, of course, it's very important. Different identities are very important for us. But how to say? I don't want to. I don't feel comfortable when I say that I'm ally. Because in this sense, I am like separating myself from a certain group, which cause I support. So I prefer to belong to the community. How to say? So I consider myself as a part of LGBT. Okay, we have plus. You know, it's very great idea to have plus.
You're the plus.
So if you don't cannot put me in the letters, so put me in plus. I'm okay with that.
I love that. And what you just talked about, the different identities, I already see. That would be so interesting to talk about that. But today we're going to talk a little bit more about you supporting the LGBT community. And I would like to hear from you how you even started, because you are really rooting for the LGBT community and are within the Orthodox context. So how did it come to the point where you started to consider yourself as part of the LGBT plus community?
It was also a long story, and it started from the church. My friends who had problems with their sexual orientation. I was like an Orthodox youth leader, and we had like helping each other with our spiritual lives and learning about faith and about how being good Christian. And so I had in my group some people who were coming to me and saying, do you know something about me? I'm gay and I don't want to be, I don't know what to do with this. What can I do? And I also didn't know how can I help? So I started to study the issue, how we address this issue. And I found who is the Orthodox gay, because he's like an... but in that time he was a very good Orthodox musician and a nice Orthodox guy. Yeah, and he was, by the way, he was also icon of masculinity. Because, so I knew as a good Christian. So I thought, he can help me. He knows about Orthodoxy so much. He's so deep in this topic. He's from family, which is very Orthodox. So I said, do you know about gay people? I have some people who have problems with their sexual orientation. Maybe you have idea how can I help them? I didn't know he's gay. And he said to me, you know, there is a forum in internet which is called Overcoming X. It's very good therapeutic forum which you can read their materials. They help to gay people to overcome their homosexuality. So I started to read all what was written about how to struggle with the sin of homosexuality, how to become a normal person, being in church, because God can change your, even if you have this problem, if you have this unfortunate thing which happened to you, and God can, if you pray, if you do certain things, God can help you to overcome it. That's why it was called Overcoming. But for me, the problem with this forum was that one of things they were discussing, how to raise masculinity. So you need to start repairing your car, and it will help you to... And then I said, why repairing the car is connected with masculinity? So that was from my experience of non-conventional female. I felt embarrassed that they consider it their domain, like, and so I was like kind of strange. It was strange, but of course I had no other issues. Then I met Igor Ivanov. Igor Ivanov is a Greek Catholic theologian in Britain who is very nice personality. He translated a lot of James Allison into Russian and Belarusian language. And so he just started to speak with me and give another perspective. And then I said, what he says makes sense. And finally came out to me. And I said, that was guy. For me, it was like a ideal Orthodox person who knew so much, who was such a believing person, who was so good personality. I could trust him that he will not cheat on anything. Like he is very fair person and so on. So he was like a ideal Orthodox guy. And then he said, I'm gay. And so for me, immediately, I received all my answers. I said, you see, I know the best Orthodox person in the world, and he's gay. And I said, but why did you send me to this Overcoming X forum? And he said, I was trying. I also did, it took time to reconcile with his own homosexuality. His journey, all his struggles he had, all his struggles also that he put me in the way of on not right path, like this overcoming path. I start to understand very much how much he suppressed his personality for so long time. And so really his personal story, I didn't want other people to go through this path of tragedies in their lives. And so that's how speaking with him, speaking with other friends, I understood that we are not doing right, because what all this overcoming, like reparative
therapy,
therapy, I didn't see any good results in anyone. But I saw good results in acceptance of own sexual orientation by person, and also acceptance by his community, he, her, or their community, that life changed. The people, like they lost their burden with caring with them. So something which was their burden, they started to celebrate it, and something that they tried to put on themselves as a pressure, they felt as a burden. That gave him no possibility to develop and also to spiritually grow. And so that was my way. And because I saw that is bullied also by some other people. So for me, it was important to stand with him and be near to him in his struggle. And how to say, that's how my story started. And I'm very grateful to this experience, because I found a lot of people whom I value and whom I found by my activism in the Orthodox Church for LGBTQI plus people. I learned a lot about myself and about God, about God's love, about all creation, about all the world through these relationships, friendships, and it was very fruitful, and I cherish it so much.
So you're a person that worked with youth back then, and then you learned for yourself that it's wrong to try and change someone's sexuality that is considered not normal. How did you reconcile, your work as a youth worker, the stance of the church towards homosexuality, and I mean, you already talked a little bit from what I hear that you didn't have any problems with reconciling it with your faith because you realized that's the right way to do. But how did you reconcile all these other things? How did it work out also, if people found out? What happened with all of that?
Yeah, my path in the church was also very interesting because I didn't want to be Orthodox because for me, before I was involved in the church, Orthodoxy, and especially Russian Orthodoxy, was a kind of unacceptable. For me, it was like politically, culturally, completely something out of my page. It was rather something bad in my own society, which made harm to my country, to my people, to myself. So I really didn't like this Orthodox Russian Orthodox Church. I wanted them to go out somewhere and not to intervene in life of society. But then I fell in love with one guy, and he was Orthodox, and he was very, very clever. He's philosopher and intellectual, and very, very clever person, very good person. And I say to myself, so strange, how can he be practicing Orthodox and be so good? So probably I should go inside the church and see what he sees in the church. I was already Christian. I had faith in Christ, in God, and I wanted to join some community, but of course I didn't consider Orthodox as a possible. It was no community for me. I could imagine Pentecostals, Baptists, Roman Catholics, anyone, but not Orthodox. And then I came, and also I met people. So all of them are so nice and good people and so clever people. And the liturgy is so beautiful, and the books, I got good books, which made sense. Theology is so nice. Oh my goodness, why this treasure is hidden with this completely awful public image of Orthodoxy, of the Orthodox Church. So when I entered the Orthodox Church, it was already, for me, like coming in a place where I didn't agree with many things. But because my own way was to discover a treasure in a pile of shit, I would say. It's really shit. So this shit was always here. But I knew that it's important to find this treasure. And it's worthy to go through the shit to find this treasure of theological thought, of ascetical teaching, of liturgical understanding, and so on. And so from the very beginning, I had to reconcile with many things, but I didn't reconcile with them. It's not the right way. I was struggling with them because I thought that this I wanted to also for other people, for my friends who also considered only so shit, to show beauty behind this shit. For me, the whole journey was to reflect how to understand what is here the core of Christian teaching, the core of God's love, of message of gospel, of teaching of the fathers of the church, what is real orthodoxy, and what is just historical context, political instrumentalization, mistakes, personal passions which influenced the whole what we call orthodoxy. And so that's why for me it was like a reflection. I really like ascetical thinking. Also, I very like chastity. Also, many things in a contemporary society would be difficult, are difficult to accept. I also don't like this, all these advertisements, for example, objectivation of a human body and sexualization of human body to sell things. And that's why in the beginning I said about falling in love, because also I don't like the idea of having relationship, because we don't speak anymore about love. It's somehow love became out of the picture, and we prefer to use another wordings, because also love was very much used for violence, for example, like violence was called love, yes, but I don't want to get rid of love because it was poisoned by violence. I want to so this poison, it's like the same as Orthodoxy. There is love, Orthodoxy is love, and it was poisoned by many other things. I like very much the Bible story of Moses and people of Israel when they come to a stream of Mara, and they are very thirsty because they just crossed from Egypt, and they try to drink. They're very, very thirsty, but they cannot drink because the taste of the water is bitter. So Moses takes wood and put it in the water, and water becomes sweet, so they can drink. So for me, it's to make the Orthodoxy sweet again. Very often people who have this position, rigid position against LGBTQI people, they just don't know who are these people, who are we, why we. So sometimes they say, there are some people who want to destroy church, or they want to destroy Christianity, they want to destroy family, and like sect somewhere sitting some strange people who have bad motives, and so on. So this polarization grows, and we don't know often that it's your brother, it's your son, it's your mother, it's your spiritual father who are gay and or transgender, or people having certain identities or certain preferences. And so that's not about sex, for example. Like sexual orientation is not about. It's not a porno movie, and very often people, they really connect some identity to some criminal behavior or some violence or some things which are bad, but it's not true. So, and that's why I think that learning the stories, personal stories, learning also the science is very important to understand things. And in Orthodoxy, I liked the developments because I see that now in Germany the bishops they are obliged to meet also open LGBT people in ecumenical events. So they know this pastor, she's lesbian, this person is gay, and so they need to communicate somehow, and so to know people and to work together with them and to see what people are really are, not the picture from it's very much the same like the pictures of in Nazi times of Jewish people, you know, like presenting them as an evil
monster.
As a monster. It's a little bit the same, but when you meet a real person and you start to say, oh my goodness, the picture does not fit to this person. And that's how you start your reflection. And there was a letter of Orthodox bishops to youth in which they said about, they didn't say we accept everyone as they are, but they said about homosexuality, first, we know the experience of National Socialism, when gay people were persecuted because being gay. And it's not acceptable. It's something we cannot accept. And second, we know that in Bible there are statements which are against homosexuality, which can be interpreted against homosexuality. So there are statements, and but also we know that we don't know if the statements is about sexual orientation, or we don't know from where comes sexual orientation, from where it comes. So what is this phenomenon? And because we don't know, we cannot make definitive judgment on this. And I think it's very important because pastors, they are very, for them, also being a youth leader in the Orthodox Church, I was always expected by people that I give answers. So they were coming, you're an expert, so give answers. And very often we don't know things, but we have to give answers, and we give bad answers to people. And I think this pastoral approach is not so working well in today's world. And we need also to learn, not only to teach. Even if we are experts, it's a learning process. It's a process of mutual learning. And also with Misha, my friend Misha, who is author of the letter to the council of the Holy and Great Council to Crete, he said, don't think that there are some they, them. There are we, and when you preach something, you very often bishops and presidents say someone, somewhere, but you must know that we are here, that you preach to me about this. And when you learn that, tell me and let's discuss. I will tell you my story. You will hear my story, and then you will judge, and not just to judge some picture or some phantom or some phenomenon. We need to learn, and for me, Orthodoxy is also a learning process, and I try not. I know that probably in 20 years I will have another approach to different things because time changes. You get more information. It's like in science you have paradigm, and then you have cases which do not fit to this paradigm, and you need to change paradigm to explain. But you never have the theory of everything. Complete theory of everything. It's always process. And also in theology, I think we have some basic ideas on which why church still exists and didn't disappear, and why Christian church exists, the Christianity in the church exists. That's what nourishes it. Is I believe that this is process of search and being based on a love of Christ and believing that Christ incarnated and for us, and he was killed and resurrected. So that's the basic story of Christianity. Everything else is we need to discover.
Yeah, I loved how you said, that we don't understand everything, and then we don't have all the answers, and that we need to learn. And so often me and my friend, we were talking about, and she's also my colleague, there is a part in the Catholic Catechism, because Croatia is mostly a Catholic country, where it says, there are so many things about homosexuality that we don't understand, and we need to approach it with grace. We can't judge them. And we said, if they would just take this approach, like take this seriously, what someone wrote, it would be already a huge step, to approach it. We don't know everything. We don't understand it. But we need to keep our love towards those people. So that's kind of what you were saying as I understand it. So you are actually, from what I remember, I'm trying to see, maybe we didn't have that many Orthodox people. Maybe there was one until now on this podcast. And I would like to hear from you what is it like for LGBT people to be a part of Orthodox Church? I know it's a very general question. It's very hard to answer. And the Orthodox Church is, of course, big. But maybe I'm mostly concentrating on the Orthodox Church more in the eastern parts of Europe, Eurasia. This part, can you maybe tell us a little bit what your experience is with that?
I think it's a very problematic issue for certain reasons, because there are many LGBT people in the Orthodox Church also taking leadership positions. And because of historical reasons, because of many different reasons, there is like homophobia coexists with these corporate homosexual structures inside the church. It's mainly male homosexual people who take oppositions, and so they call them lobby, but because it's not based on love in the relationship, but it's based on a certain close club of male. It's not a fair behavior because it starts to be also part of corruption system in the Orthodoxy. And so this dynamic of gay people who are out of power structures and who need to hide their life, their identity, their orientation, and who are discriminated and are afraid, and this power group of people who live the life as they want, who have access to resources and who power resources and authority resources, but also who had to hide, but in the other way. So it's two different groups. And unfortunately, I think that people who see corruption so they also have ideas that being gay in the Orthodox Church is like a social elevator in this corruptive system. And I don't know from where to start this, but of course, first of all, when I speak about people who want to live fair, people who want to live open, people who want to be fair with God and with their community. And in this sense, for me, it's also a reflection about the structure of the church. I think that this clericalization in Orthodoxy, that this difference of power between the leaderships and lay people, it really makes the whole system is corrupted. And so we need to as I said, there is a lot of shit. And to reach the treasure, we need to clean a lot of really things which destroy human. And I think lie is one of the strongest false things that are something which as trying to present itself as truth, like how to say this, things which are not only different, but they try to I forgot how it will be in English when there are grass which is I forgot
like
how to
weed. Yeah.
So I think that it's very difficult to distinguish between them, And that's why we need theology. I think that's why we need practice also, because spiritual life, it's not theory, it's practice. We need to judge results. That's my approach. And I don't, I think experiments is also very good because they help to see the result and judge from results. And for me, it's, very important that theology is not theology of, not only theology of basics from where we start, but also the theology of goals. Where do we get with this approach? And each theological concept must be checked by practice. That's what and that's why when I see also the openness to LGBT issues, put away this corruption, puts light to the community, which allows people to express themselves truly and openly and in the light, to live in the light. For me, it's very important to see that people become better people. Their faith become more strong and probably more healthy faith. It's not this complex psychological complex, or but the person becomes more aware of himself or herself or of other people, and the life changes, the quality of life changes, and there are. So if we see this result, so probably this concept is better. And what I see is a result in people who came out and who started. It was difficult choice to come out. It's a really difficult choice, but the quality of life then becomes on different level. Yes, you need to struggle with something else. But when you live in light, struggling with shadows is easier than when you live in dark. And that's why of course, for me, was very important that, for example, Misha came out because, yes, his life became, in a certain sense, more difficult. And life of his family, of some of his friends, became more difficult. But in a certain sense, it became much easier. It became more confident, and that's why we need other people, other community which support us. Of course, if you one against everyone, it's difficult. But if you have at least one person who supports you, someone must be courageous, and someone must take the risks. And it's worthy. And I see that situation changes very much since 10 years ago. And other thing which I see is polarization. Of course, situation changes and many people start to be more open and more inclusive, but in the same time, some people start to be more aggressive and more, focused on struggling with the issue. But everyone can choose. At least now we have choice.
So you're someone who loves Orthodox theology. I really enjoyed listening to you while you were talking. I don't know, I experienced it as a love relationship, when you were talking about Orthodox theology and the ascetics and, in Orthodox tradition. So when you look at the Orthodox theology and also all the works of the church fathers and maybe the ascetics, I don't know how much of a role they play, where do you see it should be different? Like, where is there support for making it different in the Orthodox Church today?
I think also that because theology is a development, and it's very difficult to judge ideas of 500 years ago with knowledge we have now, because people didn't have the same knowledge, and they were more limited in their... So we need to be really careful with historical analysis, with this genealogy of ideas, and sometimes good ideas led to bad result. For example, about gender issues, this theory of complementarity theory. So first it was hierarchical theory, that there is male sex is first one, female is second one, and they are in the relationship of hierarchy. At a certain point, complementary theory of sexes became a big step forward from hierarchy, because it put it on a kind of horizontal level, still with androcentrism. But at least no one could say that now they started to say that male and female are not subordinated, but they're different and they have different functions. And in the end, it also had their limitations and broad problems to how we understand sexes. And even today's theory, they probably are innovative and step forward in one thing, but finally they can bring us new problems, and in 20 years we will say, now we need to struggle with the results of this theory. And that's why I say we need this critical approach, and to see and to be fair with what we are. So not to be this when we have ideology behind. So, for example, I don't think it would be justified from my side as a theologian to go into Bible or into fathers and say, I need to find proofs for my position. It's probably not the fair way to work with material. I want to see rather how they treated this issue. What was their context? What they wanted to say? What was their priority? Can we apply it today or not? And why not? What changed during centuries? And so on. So we need to be very... Even Bible we cannot take outside. That's why Orthodox are very, how to say this, when they in discussion with Protestants, they say it's not right to take Bible and to put away that tradition. It's a dynamic thing which really develops, and we just need to be aware of it and be fair with both with Bible and tradition, and to understand, yes, we changed interpretation. It's no problem to say we changed. But also not to absolutize what we say now. And understand that maybe 20 years we will understand something different. I don't know why I always say 20 years. Why I judge this?
It's something meaningful for you, 20 years.
Yes, probably it's a good period of time. But really... and be critical to ourselves also when we produce some theological knowledge. We should know that it's not absolute. And what I say now maybe will be judged differently. And that's why it makes us to be careful and just be fair with the things. And I see a lot of misogyny, for example, in the Orthodox tradition. But also I see women who shaped Orthodox tradition. For example, Saint Basil. I like Saint Basil because my name is Vasillevich, so it's one of my favorite saints, Basil the Great, who if you see his canons, they will be really interpreted now as a misogynic, because they put different demands to male and female. For example, if a woman committed adultery, man could not accept her again as his wife, but if male man committed adultery, that woman was obliged to. So it was not fair. For example, yes, but they were also people in the same group as like mother or sisters of the same church fathers, which probably didn't get directly to the tradition, but they shaped also the many theological ideas of their brothers and sons, and rediscovering them. It's also very nice way to deal with the gender issues, for example. And just in the document Mission of the Church in Today's World, I think in this document, not or in the encyclical of the Holy and Great Council, there is a statement. No, it's a mission of the Church in Today's World, that the Orthodox tradition is an endless source of ideas about human dignity, and I like also to treat theology as a source, treat tradition as a source which nourishes and which sustains like a water which helps to grow but still, as I said, I'm queen of metaphors today about this poisoned water. So we need to see what is water and what is poison, and it's really important. But also what I say, I think that because I'm believing in God and in Christ, in God's providence, I would say, that we should be also courageous in the sense that Christ gave promises not to leave us, not to leave his church, and that's why we cannot destroy the church, because we know that there is someone who takes care of us and of the church, and in a certain sense, I give my trust to God, to Christ, that he would not put me in a bad path, and I always ask him to direct me in my way, and to show me the way, and to open my eyes, and to show if I'm mistaken. And I always ask, it's one of my big prayers to God, show me where I'm mistaken and where I'm doing bad things, considering it's good. But my intention is always to serve to this mission of Christ in the world, to be a messenger of love, of reconciliation, of peace, of justice, and that's I think that I want to be, I want life to flourish. I want people to love each other and not to hate each other, and to have this message of the kingdom of God, where there is no male, no female, where everyone is in Christ together, and accept each other and love each other and try to understand each other. And so at least I'm sure that my intentions are good, and if I'm mistaken, I ask everyone and God to forgive me, and to show me probably my bad ideas, and let's discuss, let's make this process, let's go together to the kingdom of God as one. That's I also try to understand that we are like one group of people going on Everest. There is in Everest there is a problem that someone goes individually up, and the other person can be dying just nearby, and there are a lot of dead bodies around, but the person who goes up has. He knows that there will be many dead bodies, but the thing is to get to this Mount Everest. And my approach is that we are all together. We are a team. We are going together, and if someone is not so slow, not so fast enough, it's not. I should not leave him or her dying in the snow and just reach. No, we should go together, and we should on this way. Like also refugees, if we are running out, so there are weak people, and but we are trying to escape. We are trying to save as much as possible and to help, to be in solidarity with each other. There is no point if I am alone saved. I don't see any point because my salvation is salvation of everyone else, and it's not. It's not a sport when we compete with each other. It's a sport which we are in the same team, and we need to reach the same goal all together.
For many LGBT Orthodox people, it's really hard because they're staying without the churches, and the church might be very important to them. What options would you tell them that they have? If they come out in their church community and often they get kicked out, or they can't take really part in church life in many ways. So what would you give them as another option if this happens?
Yeah, there are communities which are welcoming communities. And more such communities are in the Western world, in the countries of Western Europe or United States. So some people, they really go emigrate just to have a community where they will be welcomed. It's probably a very difficult option to emigrate, but sometimes to know that you have a community abroad, or you belong to community abroad, makes you be strong. Also, there is an option to share only with your close friends who support you and accept you as you are, and probably not to expose in a bigger church community, to be rather anonymous. But there are also many churches which wants all people to be anonymous, to know nothing about the concrete personalities, and that are atomized communities. And probably it's also an option to be in atomized community, because everyone is unknown, and their identities, their thoughts, they are really not exposed in any way. So it's also can be comfortable to hide also part of your personality, because others are doing the same. One more thing is, I think that of course changing communities are internet. Now we have internet, and now in COVID, especially in COVID times, we had possibility to be in prayer together in Zoom and so on. So the physical presence, and so we can have communities which are not nearby our houses, and belong and feeling this belonging to faraway community. Or there are also, you can change, there are also like LGBT communities in Orthodox countries, which are mainly composed from people with Orthodox background, because they were not accepted in their own community. So the whole new denomination of former Orthodox LGBT people. And it's also a way to have like LGBT community, which has its positive features, because if the community is just LGBT community, then you know that you will be accepted. On the other hand, it's a little bit strange to have a community being based on sexual orientation and gender identity of the members of the community, because how to say, it should not be a community based on social, like a community of workers or community of white people or community of so we need to mix, like we are mixed in society. We need to so this, it is also option. It also has this positive like to be refuge for people who suffer in their own communities. But still, I believe that in future we will reach a level when we will not need anymore to discuss gender identity and sexual orientation issues as an issue, like being a divisive issue or uniting issue. No, it should be it should be like
not important.
Yeah, not important. Yes, it is important for person, but all this exposing my sexual orientation, I don't come to the church to expose my gender. I don't come and say, I'm a woman, I should get now come to church and to show femininity. Or so some things should just become just normal. Yeah, but we're still on the way, and I think it takes 20 years more than 20 years. Like the national things, I also think that for example, in some nations like Belarus, it's very important for people to say, I am Belarusian and my country is Belarus, not White Russia, and they feel offended and so on, because they don't feel secure enough, we can lose our country and so on. But here in Germany, I never saw someone say, I am German and it's so important, my national identity. No one, they don't care anymore to present themselves as German. I don't see many people wearing German flag, only maybe in football. But still, I think clubs are more important than national team. So, but that shows that it's not anymore an issue. No one is threatening the German identity, and that's why people don't need to keep it so strong and to defend it. So let's hope one day the issues of gender, sex, and so on will become just demographical characteristics and not plain. Yeah,
and not a source of fear and uncertainty. What if someone finds out that someone is LGBTIQ or whatever. So we'll meet again in 20 years and check what happened to see if your predictions came true and how far it got. So we will have this podcast to listen to it and to look back and see what changed meanwhile.
So let's meet in 2 years again.
Okay, we can do that. Maybe that's more probable than 20 years, probably. So at the end, I'm looking at the time, and unfortunately there is not much more time. But is there anything that I haven't asked you and you really think it's important to say it right now?
what I want to say. Just maybe you want to subscribe to my Instagram. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
we can add. You can find the podcast description. You can find the
Instagram,
name.
Twitter, and Academia Edu, which is for more difficult things. And I wish everyone all the best. Health. Now we started to value health much more than 2 years ago. And so let us all be healthy and this pandemic to over, and to care for each other. I also like, the last thing I say, when I'm in a train station and they say, take care of each other, like wear masks and so on. So I think this message, take care of each other, is a very strong message, because the very idea that we are doing everything with care to each other, so it's very gospel message. And I say sometimes I feel this lady with mechanical voice on the train station gives me more Christian message on the way to the church than I hear in the sermon of a priest in the church. So this message of Christ is everywhere, and this basically message of caring of each other and caring of good of each other, and that's what I want Orthodoxy to be, and the core of Orthodoxy to be, and that I want the core of a human relationship in this world finally to become.
So if you are lonely watching this or listening to this, know that there is the European Forum where you can become part. There are other people who are also Orthodox and other Christians. You can always contact the European Forum. You have the link in the podcast description, and ask them where you can join, or if there is a group close to you. So thank you, Natalia, for being with me and being with us, all the viewers and listeners, and giving us a lot of answers and also interesting insights. They were interesting to me. As I said, there are some things that I even wanted to kind of start a conversation with you and find out a little bit more, but unfortunately, sometimes, my interests are not the same like for everyone, but maybe I should just do it and see where it goes. Thank you, dear viewers and listeners, for being with us. This podcast is made in partnership with the European Forum of LGBT Christian Groups. Subscribe, like, share, support if you want. As said, all the necessary links are in the podcast description, and you can always contact us, the European Forum, or me at this podcast. So see you next time, and bye to all of you watching and listening, and bye, Natalia, and thank you.
Bye.